Coming up on TekThing, is Google's OnHub the ultimate home router, or can a $94 router spank it? The Wirecutter's David Murphy has the answer. You know what else we have an answer for? The best tool to manage your travel mileage rewards. Shannon's all over that. Will the FCC kill open source router updates? What comes after MPEG? And so many glorious alarm ideas, all coming up on TekThing. TekThing comes to you each and every week because you contribute at patreon.com/TekThing. Thank you. And hey, if you get something useful out of this episode of TekThing, please consider contributing to the show at patreon.com/TekThing. Thanks so much.
I'm Shannon Morse.
And I'm Patrick Norton.
And this is TekThing, where we make technology behave.
Except on the bad days.
Is today a bad day?
Yesterday was a bad day, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. Hackaday.com has sounded the alarm on something I think is pretty important. FCC introduces rules banning Wi-Fi router firmware modification. And depending on how these rules are interpreted, which I would assume would be broadly, it could actually, so the idea is that the FCC wants to lock down the 5 gigahertz bandwidth and prevent modifications that would change the performance of the radios put into routers. The problem is the radios and the router chipsets tend to be kind of integrated, which means you wouldn't be able to modify the router OS, which means if you wanted something like a security update via open source, using something like what?
Open WRT or DDWRT.
Or Gargoyle or anything else,
yeah.
It would be illegal and punishable by being spanked and put in prison to modify that router. Or if, let's say there's a 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi inside of your phone, then you couldn't do things like jailbreak or put CyanogenMod on your, jailbreak your iPhone or CyanogenMod on your Android device. I don't like this, especially given how pathetic the support has been by router manufacturers for routers over the last few years.
Oh my gosh, it's terrible. You buy a router and you never get updates. And if you do, they're half broken.
Yeah, and security updates, I mean, we've basically...
Security updates never happen.
Yeah, I mean, NetUSB, like at least one router manufacturer is like, yeah, we can't fix it. Buy a new router. Okay, not
Just
for
buy
you.
a new one, yeah.
Just buy a new one, because that's an answer. So Hackaday.com, we have a link in the show notes for you guys to read this. If you want to get intense, start calling Congress critters, do FCC comments, there's a really nice summary of what's going on at libreplanet.org/wiki/save_Wi-Fi. So this is an FCC notice of proposed rulemaking. The commentary period has been extended from the original September 8th deadline. This is probably worth calling your Congress critters about once you decide where you are on this. I am not a fan of this proposed regulation at all.
I have fiery thoughts. That's all I'll say.
Shannon,
let's talk about something fun.
Okay, September
Apple TV.
9th. Yeah. So we've talked a lot about the iPhone, the iPhone rumors for the September 9th Apple thing.
There's some iPad rumors floating around too, so keep that in mind before you buy a new iPad.
The crew over at BuzzFeed News has a nice kind of summary of what's going on with the Apple TV rumors, that it's going to get its own app store. It's going to sell for $149. It's going to have a little creepy girl on the front of it because Poltergeist. Hardcore voice control via Siri. I like the idea of hardcore voice control. And, says BuzzFeed, universal search. The idea that you can ask Siri to find you a movie and it will not just look on the Amazon Prime paid.
So I can say, Siri, where can I watch Sailor Moon? And then it'll be like, you can find that on Hulu and YouTube.
Yeah.
Would you like to buy it on Amazon?
You
and I'll
can
be
watch
like,
it?
no, I'm going to watch it for free on Hulu. Thanks, though.
Which would be really, really cool if it really, really, really works.
Yes.
We won't know if
Awesome.
this is a rumor or a truth until the 9th of September. I'm kind of excited. Also, I guess there's going to be, what else do we have in here? A new remote drastically improved by a touchpad input, and as first reported by TechCrunch and independently confirmed by BuzzFeed, motion sensors that will allow it to function as a game controller. So
Very
much
cool.
excitement.
And speaking of Apple, we also have some other news about them because, hey, they're a big name, right?
Well, it's funny. Apple may be the one name missing from the Open Media Alliance.
Yeah,
Which
you're
is-
right.
It's funny. Amazon, Netflix, Google, Microsoft, Mozilla, and others partner to create next-gen video format. This is up on TechCrunch. And this is interesting. So MPEG is a collection of patents and rights that are administered by the MPEG LA
Right.
a group. And essentially, you pay tens of thousands of dollars for an MPEG license for your Blu-ray player, for your software, for your website, or more. It's a big scaling fee. You know, and I guess Apple and Major League Baseball are the two that I know. Well, Major League Baseball, they stream a spectacular amount of video. There's a reason HBO Now was built by the MLB people. So the thing about Amazon, Netflix, Google, Microsoft, Mozilla, and others is they don't want to pay royalties to the MPEG LA. And so the group is called the Alliance for Open Media, and they want to create open, royalty-free video formats and codecs, or more to the point, one next-gen, ultra HD-friendly codec that can scale from little tiny phones to great big screens. And I say one because Google, Cisco, and Mozilla all have royalty-free codecs under development.
Yeah.
And nobody's gonna adopt any one of those.
No, it's all proprietary per company.
Well, but if it's royalty-free, it doesn't cost them anything. But the problem is nobody wants to develop for all these different codecs.
Exactly.
So now some of the biggest names in technology are all banding together to kick MPEG in the teeth. And to quote TechCrunch, quote, as Mozilla notes, part of the reason for forming this alliance is not just to share technology, but also to run the kind of patent analysis necessary to build a next generation royalty-free video codec, because usually the people who have codecs that they want you to pay for automatically assume that you must have violated some of our patents, and we'll just fire up the attack lawyers now. So, you know, it also says something really amazing when you realize it takes Amazon and Netflix and Google and Microsoft and Mozilla to all band together to do this. That's a lot of intellectual, technical, and financial firepower.
I wonder what this means for podcasters as far as encoding goes.
There was a point where MPEG distribution on podcasts was looking like it would be a financial impossibility.
Yeah.
So far, we have not had a knock on the door from MPEG LA. I hope not to hear from them, because it'll shut us down.
A royalty-free codec would be amazing.
Yes.
It's
a necessity.
Something that works with everything.
Oh my goodness.
That would be so cool.
That would be nice. It probably won't work with all the older stuff, but that brings us back to router updates, and then Snubs will get upset. Speaking of encoded video, just in case you didn't get the email, our first patrons only build is up on patreon.com/TekThing. We got our Raspberry Pi 101. Our September build is going to be some mildly unhinged DIY liquid cooling, and someday that Silver Lake CPU is going to come in for a new gaming PC build.
Yay! That'll be so fun.
We've had requests for pfSense, FreeNAS, main boxes, all sorts of stuff. If you got ideas for our builds, email ask@tekthing.com or message us on Patreon.
All right, I think we should find out what's happening over on Hack 5.
Darren. Darren.
This week on Hack 5, we're talking about Demon Saw, the new peer-to-peer encrypted file sharing application, as well as ways to build your own models for 3D printing for free. All that on Hack 5 at hak5.org.
Patrick.
Yes, Shannon?
Why is your phone borked?
My phone actually is no longer borked.
Oh, good, you fixed it.
Well, actually,
so this is why he had a bad day yesterday.
I actually paid a very lovely young man in El Cerrito because he actually had an iPhone 6 screen in stock.
Oh.
Well, okay, so first of all, it's really funny. 3 thoughts. 1, always regularly back up your phone, especially if it is your primary place to put photos, because it's, you know, I could have, so I stood up off the toilet. The phone fell out of my back pocket into the toilet. Okay, I have children. I have no problem reaching in and grabbing it. I have 90%, isopropyl alcohol to clean it off. But unfortunately, there was water under the screen. Oh. And at that point, the correct thing to do is kind of what I did next, which is this is a silica gel. This is oversized. What you really want is something like this on my screen, a 40-gram Desicus silica gel canister. These are really awesome. This will connect several cubic feet. It will absorb the moisture from it. The silica gel inside will change color. When it changes color, you put it in the oven for a couple hours at like 300 degrees, and it will drive all the moisture back out.
I believe we've mentioned that before. I've never seen this one.
Well, this is so this is a big Hydrosorb canister. This is a 750-gram silica gel canister that'll protect 57 cubic feet. That's 1,614 liters. And I didn't have any of the little ones that hadn't been discharged, and this was the only charged one I have. So 3 things happened, and it was like, so I immediately, trying to power down the phone, and I can't because there's no way to remove the battery, and the screen was already starting to misbehave. So I put it in here and closed my Ziploc bag, and that's basically all you need to help dry out a phone, especially if it's powered down. Unfortunately, I needed information off the phone, and I decided to hurry the process along and went to pull the screen off to open it up so I could create greater surface area with which to dry the phone, and I used an inappropriate tool to grab the screen and shattered the screen. At which point, I realized that if I took it to Apple to swap out under the insurance policy, I would lose all the information on the phone. And it was going to be 24 to 72 hours to get a replacement screen shipped here. And I just went and found a local purveyor of screen repair, which was amazing to watch. Watching Jorge replace the screen, because the dude replaces screens all day long on all sorts of Android and Apple devices.
I bet he's a pro.
He was fast. It was really fun. He's sitting there with his jeweler screwdrivers, and he's just picking them up magnetically, dropping them in the straw. It's great to watch somebody who's really good at what they do. So Jorge, thank you. Cool. I have a functioning screen, and it's time for me to buy another OtterBox, apparently.
Apparently it is.
Which will hopefully last longer than the last one.
All right, so moving on.
This week's Rapid Fire Roundup is three applications that help you manage your mileage rewards for travel. I never travel by plane anymore, except to Las Vegas for business, which brings us to Shannon.
Woohoo! Woo! All right, so I have 3 different ones that I use on occasion, 2 of which I use practically every day. So the first one is called AwardWallet. You can find this at awardwallet.com. This app lets you sync your mileage accounts all on one site. So you choose how much you want to pay for Plus if you choose to upgrade to their Plus account from free. Plus enables basically just automatic updating to the award miles. And if you pay $10 or more, they'll send you a nice fancy little plastic card that you can actually keep in your wallet, hence AwardWallet, that has all of your different mileage account numbers on it. So it's a very easy way to store all of your numbers, or you can just make one yourself like I do. Passwords are stored locally on my own computer, so that's less of a security concern since I am connecting accounts here. The big con with it though is some mileage accounts have disabled AwardWallet's site from accessing your mileage info from their site. So for example, Southwest Airlines has disabled different award trackers from collecting that mileage data from your account on their website.
Really?
So AwardWallet, you have to manually update it, or you have to forward your statement from your email over to AwardWallet to actually get it to update.
Why are they blocking that?
I'm unsure. They haven't stated why. I have a feeling that it's a security concern because you are connecting accounts, but we're doing the same thing with Mint, and everybody uses Mint. So my question is, why can't we do the same thing with AwardWallet? But they haven't really stated what the issue is there, so I don't know. My second one is Tripit, or Tripit Pro. You can find this over at tripit.com. The free version is super awesome in itself. The site and the free app let you track upcoming flights, your hotel stays. You can connect with friends and see if other friends are in the city that you're visiting. You can connect your car rental so you know your itinerary for everything and it's all nice and organized and laid out for you. Or you can just simply forward your itinerary plans over to plans@tripit.com and they'll automatically connect all that stuff. Import it into your account for you, so you don't have to actually manually update it on their website too. The reason why I like Pro though is because it gives you flight alerts, but also it comes with a seat tracker. So you'll be alerted if you end up with a middle seat and you prefer to have an aisle. If an aisle opens up, they'll alert you so you can change your seat. Yeah, it's the funniest thing, but they let you do that. My personal story is about flight alerts. I had a delay on a layover. I was going to miss my next flight and I knew I was, but I was gonna have to wait until I got off the plane to actually get in line and rebook myself on the next upcoming flight. Luckily, Tripit Pro texted me right when we landed because I turned it off from airplane mode. So we landed, I was able to, call ahead before I actually got off the phone. So while everyone else was rushing to get off the airliner and get into line so they could rebook their flights, I already had a booked flight with the airliner because they texted me and they were like, hey, your flight's delayed. We know you're gonna miss your next one. Here's the phone number for the airliner. I was like, cool, all right, thanks.
Tripit.
Thank you. Yeah, that totally saved me time and a lot of stress. So that paid for it right there. And yeah, they rebooked me, no standing at the counter, no stress. I got dibs on one of the first seats available on on the next available flight. So the Tripit is one of my favorite things to use. Pro also comes with a mileage tracker and alerts if the flight goes down in price, so you can also get a refund, which I had that happen with no, it wasn't Southwest, it was United once, where it dropped like $200 in price, so I got $100 back.
Cool.
Yeah. The con though on this Tripit Pro is $49 per year. That's pretty pricey.
Well, unless you travel a lot. I mean,
if you travel a lot.
It saved you from being stuck and missing your next flight.
Yeah, and it has saved me money when I was able to get a refund on United, which pretty much paid for it right there too. So there's a couple of reasons why I like it. And my third one, and I'll make this one quick, it's called TRAXO.com. This one works like Tripit in that you can simply email your itinerary to the site and they import it for you. The site's completely free, so there's no upcharge whatsoever. It's all free all the time. However, the tracking doesn't allow you to manually update your mileage for airliners that have blocked the mileage tracking. So unfortunately, it won't track those. So I have 5 different accounts. If I go in here and I look at them, you'll see that only 2 of them show up. So Southwest I need to update, and Virgin America I need to update as well, because both of those are off. But mileage on United, Delta, and America, they don't update because they all have it blocked, which is highly unfortunate because I have no way to manually update it for myself.
So semi-useful.
Semi-useful, but only if you're using one of the airliners that's still allowing it to be tracked. Apps are also available for both iOS and Google Play for both Tripit, AwardWallet, and TRAXO as well. So you can find all sorts of free apps for all of these, and you don't necessarily have to pay for any of them unless you want all the fancy perks.
Fancy perks.
But yeah, those are my 3 favorites. I use AwardWallet and Tripit the most, and TRAXO I just signed up for to check it out. Of course, I want to know what your picks are, so you can always email me, ask@tektthing.com, if there is something that I missed, because I do travel a lot, so I like to know these things.
But some of you travel even more. Share the information.
Share with me.
Hey everybody, if you're a fan of TekThing, make sure you subscribe at TekThing.com on iTunes or YouTube.com/TekThing. That makes sure you get each and every episode. And if you want to take it to the next level, consider contributing to the show at Patreon.com/TekThing. You can donate however much you want per episode. Every little bit counts, and you'll have access to our Patreon contributor-only build videos. If you can't donate, don't worry. Please take the time to send us questions, tips, and to share the show with your friends and family. Giving our videos the thumbs up on YouTube, liking our Facebook page. If you could review us on iTunes, it would be cool. All that helps us keep the show growing and going forward. And thank you, each and every one of you, so much for supporting the show, however you do it. David Murphy writes for the Wirecutter's computer team, amongst other websites and magazines. You might also know him from his days as an editor at Maximum PC. He has gone deep testing Google's OnHub router, and he's seen better performance for routers that cost, brace for it, less than half as much. David, welcome to TechZilla.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Were you shocked at the performance? I expected more from OnHub.
I was a little shocked, but by the same token, whenever I see a router with these internal antennas going on, I don't know, they tend to not work quite as well as the routers that just have, a million external antennas just sitting around everywhere. So a little shocked, but not super shocked.
Well, I mean, at this point, is the OnHub really massively overpriced for what you're getting right now?
I would say so. I mean, at this point, it feels more like a beta test. A lot of the stuff that Google's talked about or even put in the router either doesn't work or isn't quite developed yet, or it feels like a good router that you might want to buy grandma, but you just realize that you overspent, by $100.
Oh my goodness. So Bluetooth 4.0 not there, the home automation stuff not there.
Nope.
USB
port, not there.
Oh my goodness. How about the setup via the website or via your phone? How'd that work?
Yeah, so that's the one really actually great point about Google's router, the fact that the setup is simple, it's flawless. It is easier than Apple's Airport Extreme, which for a Mac user is probably the easiest thing you could ever set up. So within not even 1 minute, I had my router up and running via my phone. The one caveat being that you have to do the whole process with your phone. There is no web-based UI. So a lot of power users who are used to, typing an IP address and setting up everything that way, they'll get a little screen that says, nice try, go use your phone instead. So you got to have a smartphone. So if grandma's still rocking the old Razr phone, that might not work.
Prying grandma off the old Razr phone is always a problem. So when we take a look at the best Wi-Fi router for most people, your current article up on the Wirecutter, picking a router that you added the OnHub testing information in there. The TPLink C7 is kind of the best deal out there if you're looking primarily at performance. This $94 router, it delivers twice the throughput of the OnHub.
Yeah, thereabouts. I mean, when I put them, side by side, the closer you are to the OnHub, they're a little more evenly matched. But what I tend to prioritize is how well a router does at long range, because that's the first thing people are going to notice. If I walk down my hallway in my house and then poof, my Wi-Fi goes away. So the C7 not only doubled its performance at long range, but the curious thing I found was that because the OnHub uses one SSID, one name for both, 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz, you don't really know if you're on your faster AC speeds or if you've dropped down to, a slower network to the 2.4 gigahertz. So with the C7, I could take my wireless AC all the way to the end of our testing range, whereas the OnHub, when I pulled it up all the way in our long distance test, I found that, that worked okay. But when I came closer, then I realized, oh, wait, I'm on my slower speeds. I'm not on wireless AC anymore. So it's that weird kind of, if I walk too far away, I drop down and then you don't recover, obviously.
It's like, is that a bug or a feature? It's so simple. I have the same SSID everywhere.
I mean, it's set up for convenience because a lot of people don't want to have to go, okay, well, I'm sitting in my house. Wait, am I sitting in the right part of my house where I can get the best AC signal, or should I drop down to 2.4? It's a measure of convenience, but you then have to think about, okay, well, am I actually even still on my super fast speeds? And this is all stuff that most people honestly won't even notice, because most people, the internet connection is so slow anyway that what their routers will be able to do is far beyond even what kind of stuff they'll get, down from the internet. So we're talking more about power users here, and obviously the OnHub really isn't a router that is geared for them in the slightest.
I mean, it's kind of funny. It looks attractive. We got the cat over one shoulder. We've got the OnHub over the other shoulder. I'm voting for the cat as being more attractive. You mentioned before it feels like a beta. What could the OnHub mutate into if Google continues to update it?
I see it really going the smart home, the hub route. I mean, I think Google will try at some point to integrate everything it can, this whole idea of, the connected home, into this one really pretty, or Amazon Echo looking device, as everyone calls it. I mean, I think Google will go that route, but I'm just surprised that they released it now, because there's nothing that the market is saying that we need this router in advance. They could have, sat on this for 3 months, cooked it, and really came out with an interesting device. I mean, something that all the features work is kind of step one. I don't know why. I don't know why the rush.
I don't know. Maybe they're emulating the video game industry, which just pains me to think about. So let's take a moment to talk about, your long distance test. You're not talking about 200-300 yards. You're talking about the test in your living environment. That's essentially a house. You know what I mean? Yeah. You're not talking about, the OnHub failing at 200 yards. You're talking about it failing it in a 2,000 square foot house.
Exactly. So, I mean, we tested about 60-ish or so feet away, and the long distance test I refer to is one that has to go through walls, go through furniture. I mean, this is really a use case scenario that most people would have. I mean, you set it up in your house and you try and get a signal, all the way from the bedroom. That's kind of what people want to do. So we really try to emulate how people use a normal router in our testing.
Which is good. One of the things that I love that you point out is if you have an older router that's 3 or 4 years old, it might be worth spending $100 to buy a new router, simply because it'll probably cover your house without using extenders.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the newer routers, absent the whole wireless AC equation, if you remove all of that from everything, I mean, newer routers have newer technology, newer radios, newer chips. I mean, there's more going on in a device, obviously, that was, made a year ago versus one that you bought, 7 years ago. So you can always probably get a lot more range and a lot more noticeable speed if you just buy a modern router and don't, keep on using the one that you had in college or something.
Good point. So the TP-Link C7, $94, outperformed a lot of, or performed as well or outperformed a lot of routers that cost twice as much. Is there any time at this point people should be buying a $200 or $300 router?
I mean, there is. The Airport Extreme is one that we've kind of gone back and forth on, in the sense that it really is a very easy router to use for Apple fans. I mean, if you are an all Apple household, I would almost recommend that. Even, I caveat that by saying that its long range performance is not going to be as good as other 200 routers, or other $200 routers. Like the one that we recommend, it's a little less than 200. It's the Nighthawk R7000 from Netgear, and its lesser cousin, the R6400, which just kind of came out recently, that cost even less. Those are kind of the ones that give you a lot of bells and whistles, a lot of features, stuff for all the power users, and give you a lot of great speeds and range too. I mean, this is stuff that even if you don't care about, using the USB port on my router or setting up parental controls or stuff like that, I mean, at the end of the day, you'll still have an awesome router that can blast a pretty long distance compared to everything else.
This is pretty cool. So single-user MIMO is what we're using today. Multi-user MIMO is starting to roll out. Can any actual laptops or even USB adapters work with multi-user MIMO?
I believe that the laptops are trickling out, but I mean, really, if you go down to your store right now, go to the Microsoft store, go to the Apple store, what you're going to buy is not going to support multi-user MIMO. So, I mean, some of these routers coming out with these features, that's all well and good. I mean, even on the router side, some of these manufacturers haven't even enabled the feature on their routers yet. So it's this weird, we're waiting for the chicken, we're waiting for the egg. It's like nothing's happening, nothing at all. So we really don't know the future of how that's going to unfold, and that's why, I mean, my recommendation now is to not buy those routers based on features they have that might help you out at some point. Buy a router that's the fastest, that gives you the most range. That's what you're going to see, not all this other stuff that you can't even use now.
But multi-user MIMO is going to allow me to have multiple parallel connections at full speed.
And by then we'll have WiGig, so it doesn't matter.
Oh my goodness. Well, okay, so I mean, alphabet soup, I'm going to pull this off the teleprompter. N600, N900, AC1200, AC1750, 1900, 2350, 3200, and I think we saw like 5250 this morning.
I think it is something like that.
Yeah, I'll have to pull it up because I kept laughing when I looked at it because one, it looks like a giant sort of spider robot that's been killed, and two, you mentioned it was probably going to be, we'll talk about that in a second. At this point, a lot of these numbers are total marketing fluff unless you're the person who actually has the adapters on your machines to use them.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the core of it. I mean, I went so far as to say they're marketing fluff. Like, they tell you what the router can do. The thing is that your average person buying a router from Best Buy has no idea what these numbers mean. I mean, they'll see, AC 3200, that must mean that it's double the speed of AC 1750. So of course I should pay $300 for it. And no, that's not the case. Like, buy, the routers that have been tested and proven to be the fastest, and that could be a great AC 1750 router. It doesn't mean it's a 3200. It's the numbers mean something to a certain point, and then it becomes kind of an apples and oranges what the definition is, and it's too confusing for normal people to understand. It's that's why all these reviews, that's why we do all this stuff, to really try and tell people that, hey, like, cut through all this, all the crap.
As you point out, the best Wi-Fi router for most people. I mean, I laugh because I was trying to explain to a family member, like, well, it's the combination of AC channels plus, N channels, plus, and then they're looking at me and I'm like, yeah, this is worthless. And as you point out, you've seen N600 routers outperform N900 routers.
I mean, really, it's the router. It's not the number. I mean, I've seen our Archer C7 outperform the AC 3200 routers. That those might give you a benefit in certain use cases, but a lot of people probably aren't going to see the benefit that they're expecting, or the laptops they have. We're still in the infancy where a lot of laptops don't support the fastest speeds that even the cheap router we recommend supports. So, I mean, what we recommend is something that's going to be overkill for a lot of people anyway, but it's so inexpensive. I mean, why won't you get it?
Makes sense to me. Well, and I figured out the Asus RT AC5300U is the giant dead mechanical spider, and it's 5333 or 5300. Nothing can actually run 5 gigahertz at this point, right?
Well, what they're doing is they're combining, essentially a 4-stream capability across 2 5 gigahertz bands, or across 2 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi networks. So not only can you not run anything at 4x4 right now, but the amount of firepower that gives you is silly. It's almost silly. I can't think of a use case where there would be so many devices that could even be all mixed together where you would need that much firepower. And even then, I mean, the technology they're using to get them those speeds is proprietary. It's a Broadcom technology that no laptop alive has right now, and even the predecessor technology to that that we see in AC 1900 routers, no one has anyway. Like, very few people can run that fast anyway. So it's like we're incrementing hypotheticals that no one is even close to achieving at this current point in time.
Well, while we're talking hypotheticals, how far out is WiGig?
That's kind of the weird writing on there, the weird question in the air,
Right.
I would say it's probably maybe a year or two-ish out, but there's so many, caveats you still have to explain with that. I mean, is this the kind of tech that only works in one room of your house? I mean, at that point, what's the point of WiGig in a conventional router devices sense? I mean, that's really more for, I'm trying to kill all the cables on my computer with a wireless signal instead for all my devices. So it's a lot of talk over WiGig, and it's something we're kind of exploring and keeping our eye on, but it's not something I would say that's going to supplant all of today's routers anytime soon. It's not the thing worth waiting for. I'll put it that way. Like, buy a router now if you need a router. Don't wait for WiGig or for this crazy 5300 thing, etc.
The crazy dead spider.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. thewirecutter.com/reviews/best-fi-router is the name of the article we were referring to here. David, anything you got coming up you can tell us about or tease us at?
Really, no, this has kind of completed my run of router testing for a little while. Not much is happening. The OnHub was kind of the big bomb that none of us really saw coming, and we were excited to see it, and now maybe not so excited. But no, otherwise, no, it's back to the humdrum world of laptops and monitors, which is far less thrilling than Google's, pretty little box.
You stare at a monitor every time you fire up your PC. I don't think it's humdrum at all.
True, no, not quite as exciting as these cute little things we put in our bookshelves, but yeah.
The Echo 2.0. David, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks a bunch.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can follow David on Twitter at @TheDavidMurphy, and of course find his work on thewirecutter.com. It's good stuff. Go check out the site if you're not familiar with it. Thanks again, David.
Thanks.
Hey everybody, a quick correction. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the Leva X Squared, not the Leva X2. My apologies to ECS. If you're looking for it, X Squared Mini PC, not the X2. Sorry.
Hey, we got some awesome feedback, so I wanted to throw some out there for us before we head out today. So first off, Karl in Phoenix writes, Patrick, you keep telling us to not install or update Flash Player. What do you suggest people do that use Safari? Is there another player that we can use instead? Love the show, been watching since the beginning. Thanks, Karl in Phoenix.
Thank you, Karl in Phoenix.
Thank you very much.
I would say Chrome. Just
Chrome.
Yeah, download. Well, it's kind of funny. Download and install Chrome, right? Keep using Safari, and then don't install Flash on that system. Just use Chrome, which has Flash inside of it. Yeah, it was funny because I have uninstalled Flash on everything else on one of my machine or my laptop.
Right. Yeah.
And it makes me laugh because there's, it's okay. A lot of video websites use Flash. A lot of ancient web pages that are very old school demand Flash. And then AT&T. I went to check my mobile bill. It had a part of the login involved needing Flash. So I was like, delete expletive and launch Chrome and unblocked Flash. So if you like Safari, use Safari. Just run Safari, and then when you need something involving Flash, fire up Chrome and do the Flash stuff in Chrome. That's my suggestion for you, because it occurred to me there are still some websites that demand Flash that I need. For example, the AT&T mobile website.
Luckily, that percentage is decreasing.
Rapidly.
I forget where I found the site, but there are numbers available on the internet. So yeah, that number has been steadily decreasing over the past decade or so. Flash is slowly losing its power. So luckily, hopefully, it'll disappear one of these days. But there are a lot of major sites that still use it, unfortunately.
So my current suggestion is let Google carry the weight of Flash and do Flash on Chrome. And if you already use Chrome and you have, it's not too hard to turn Flash on and off or to use a Flash blocker. We got a ton of great feedback about alarm system options we wanted to share with everyone.
Yes,
Nick,
we did.
Oh my goodness, yeah, and they're still coming in. Nick wrote, hey guys, I recently found the show and I am loving watching. Great job. We use Simpli Safe alarm system for our home security. It's similar to the Smanos that you reviewed, except it's totally cellular based, customizable, and it monitors and calls the police or fire department. It also offers motion detectors that can be set up even with pets in the house. It's a great solution for us and offers lower monthly cost solutions than ADT, Brinks, etc. Personally, I don't see spending the money on an alarm system that doesn't call the police. Keep up the great work on the show, Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
And I think I said ADT, although I may have mumbled it. ADT is kind of like the big monster, security system. But Simpli Safe, I think Simpli Safe was founded by a guy who was pissed off at paying, getting locked into 2-year contracts and for $42 a month.
Oh, that is too funny.
Because that's the big thing for Simpli Safe is it's like $12 a month. You can run it, you can not run it, and then you install the gear yourself.
I should also mention that Smanos ended up sending me a new webcam because I wasn't able to get the other one to work with my machines. So I'm going to try to connect that one and see if it works, and I will report on my findings as soon as I get it working. So I'm excited to see if it actually works. We got another message from Ed. Ed wrote, another thumbs up on iSpy. I use that to record and do motion detection on some IP cams around my house. But instead of actual possibly spendy cameras, I bought a few old used Android phones on eBay. Old Verizon Droid 2s cost me about $30 each a year or so ago.
Nice.
Wiped them, installed CyanogenMod, and put them in airplane mode to turn off the cell radio, but left the Wi-Fi radio on. They're basically wireless computers running on a web server, streaming video on my network, and run IP webcam. And he links us to the Google Play Store link for that on them to stream to iSpy. It starts recording and sends me an email when it detects movement and works pretty slick. My only gripe with iSpy is that it has the software as a subscription model if you want to use the remote admin functions. If they'd open that up so I could just open a port on my firewall and NAT that into the iSpy web server, then it would rock, but the dev wants to charge for that functionality. It's open source, so if I really wanted to roll that myself, I suppose it's a possibility, but that's something to warn viewers about. Not a deal breaker, but a little concern. I'm happy enough with iSpy. I'll be purchasing the paid version anyway. And that was Ed up in Montana. Thank you, Ed.
Well, in iSpy's defense, it's kind of nice to have a revenue stream to support the open source development.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
It's just
I like the pay what you choose model, because then I can support them however much I feel that it's worth,
right,
and however much I can afford.
Well, this is a good model, but can be very difficult to budget, say, the web server power you need.
That's
for
true.
Like
yeah,
iSpy,
very
right?
true.
Oh my goodness. One more before we go. John wrote in, with 40 years experience in the alarm industry, I have a few thoughts for you. The system you showed really is subpar to what is available. More and more police departments no longer respond to unverified alarm signals, even from major alarm companies, much less a homeowner with a DIY alarm system. If you're serious about home security, get a system from a reputable security company. It does not really matter which one, as long as they're licensed. Most home systems today can be completely controlled by a smartphone and will automatically send video to your phone when an alarm is tripped. Other benefits of a monitored system is things like a water detector for basements and those parts of the country that still have water or the possibility of a sewer backup. Love the show, and you two make a great team, John.
Aw, thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
You know, the more feedback that we get, the more I'm seriously considering just paying for it.
Well, you know, there are options out there, and it is something to consider. What does your alarm system actually do when it is alarmed? Sounds silly, but it's something to think about.
Something to think about.
Something to think about.
And hey, before we leave today, that's about it for TekThing, but remember, once in a while, put down your phone, step away from the screen, close the laptop, and do something analog. Like what I did yesterday, bake cookies.
What kind of cookies did you make?
Chocolate chip out of a box.
I need a new butternut cookie recipe.
Ooh, that sounds good.
They're so good.
Now I'm hungry.
I'm hungry too. I'm Patrick Norton.
I'm Shannon Morse.
We'll see you next week on TekThing.
Bye.
There was an Ethiopian restaurant 2 doors down from the place I got my phone repaired.
Let's go there.
We should go there.
There we go.
Don't leave me hanging. Seriously. Desiccant package, Ziploc bag, save your phone. Just put the phone in there, power it off for like 2 days. Don't be like me and try to rush things. Unless you need a phone, in which case you should have a spare phone and everything backed up, but that's a whole other conversation.
Hey, big thanks to our patrons.
Yes.
You guys, you're awesome. We appreciate all of you.
Yes.
Every single one.
Yes, we do.
All the ones on our website, all the ones here.
This consumes like no power.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, I mean, it shouldn't consume low power. It's a low
Can I
power
run it off
machine.
of a battery?
Well, it depends on how long you want to run it for.
Like an hour.
Probably.
Maybe.
You'll need a power inverter. Or actually, what's the input voltage on this?
I know
12 volts, 3 amps. Actually, we run this for a while on a car battery. Well, it is
a lot of amps.
I don't know.
Look at all these amps.
So many amps.
So many amps.
There are 2 amps on my desk right now, my workbench.